Texas Tech football is officially ranked in the USA Today preseason coaches poll. Where and when was the last time that the Red Raiders were ranked in an official preseason top 25 list? We'll also go over the wide receiver position for the Red Raiders and discuss Jerand Bradley and how I think he will have a 1,000-yard season. We'll also break down who will be the wide receiver two and everyone in the wide receiver group for the Red Raiders. Hey, how's it going, everybody? I am RC Maxwell here for the Back to 12 podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay in the know on Texas Tech football all year long. We'll be talking about Big 12 stuff as well, but we're really going to get down to the nitty-gritty as Texas Tech is officially into fall camp. It is day 5 at the time of this recording, and there is a big-time position preview on the docket for today discussing the wide receivers. And this is one of those groups where if you listen to the long form of this podcast with Lyle Leong Jr., who I think if you're a Texas Tech fan, you know who that is, played alongside of Michael Crabtree back in the day for Mike Leach. If you don't, he talked about last year how they had to get better at wide receiver, and him and I both agree they did just that this offseason. If you haven't already as well, hit that like button if you want more Texas Tech football coverage all year long. We're going to be giving you previews, game breakdowns in terms of recaps. We're going to be looking ahead in terms of 3 keys to the game, injury reports, breaking news, the rumors around the program, and oh yeah, we'll have some Big 12 betting stuff as well on Friday. So be sure to hit that like button to stay in the know right here. All right, let's jump into this as Texas Tech comes in at number 24 in the USA Today coaches poll. It's the first time that the Red Raiders have been ranked in an official preseason top 25 poll since 2008. Now, listen, they weren't alone when it comes to the Big 12 on this one, as there were 5 Big 12 teams in the top 25 of the USA Today's coaches poll. And for those that are wondering, the AP poll comes out next Monday, August 14th. But if you look who was in the top 25 for the Big 12 in this one, it starts with Texas at number 12, TCU at number 16, Kansas State at number 17, Oklahoma at 19, and then the Red Raiders round out the top 25, at least for the Big 12, at number 24. For me, I think this is exactly where we've been talking about. If you listen to this channel throughout the offseason, I said that I thought Texas Tech was going to be ranked in that 22 to 25 range, both in the USA Today poll and the AP poll. Now, we'll obviously see on the AP poll, but 1 for 1 so far with that prediction. But I want to ask you guys about this spot for the Red Raiders. Should they be higher, lower, or is this just right for the preseason poll for the Red Raiders going into year 2 of Joey McGuire? Again, I thought this was kind of the range they would be in. I know some people have been in the comments and the mentions being upset that Ole Miss is ranked ahead of them after what Texas Tech did to them last year in the Texas Bowl. But hey, let me know down in the comments below, do you think Texas Tech should be ranked higher, lower, or maybe is this just right for the Red Raiders headed into the 2023 season? All right, let's jump into it and discuss the wide receivers for the Red Raiders. And it really all starts with number 9. He's big in the thumbnail right there, and Jerand Bradley. This is one of those specimens that Texas Tech has on their roster that's a true difference maker. A lot of people are talking about the defensive line, whether that's Steve Linton, and we will hear on the channel as well. But when it comes to the offensive side of the football, I don't know if there's a more critical skill position guy on this roster than Jerand Bradley for the Red Raiders. Now, for those that don't know, Jerand Bradley, big dudes, over 6'4", and he led the Red Raiders last year in receiving yards with 744, and he also had 6 touchdowns, which led the Red Raiders as well. This year, he is looking to eclipse 1,000 yards in his redshirt sophomore season, really only his second year as a starter for the Red Raiders, and I think this is the year where you could potentially see that jump. He's also named as a preseason Biletnikoff finalist, which goes to the best wide receiver in the country, the only other wide receiver to win it at Texas Tech. Well, you know who he is. He's Michael Crabtree. He's in the Ring of Honor right there, and he won it back-to-back, one of only 2 wide receivers to ever do that. The only other one is Justin Blackman at Oklahoma State. But when I look at Bradley and what he brings to the table, he has the potential to be a top 3 wide receiver in the Big 12. Health permitting, I would expect him to go over 1,000 yards in 2023. The reason being is this, and we'll get more in depth with these guys here in just a minute, but the wide receiver core for Texas Tech is much improved from an experience standpoint and a factor that they simply did not have enough of last year, which is speed. And there's one guy in particular we'll talk about who I think drastically changes the outlook for not only Bradley on this Texas Tech roster, but also Loic Fouonji, who we'll talk about, Myles Price, Nehemiah Martinez, Xavier White. The list goes on in terms of this guy's impact for the Red Raiders. But before we discuss every other wide receiver on this roster for Texas Tech, let me know, will Jerand Bradley have over 1,000 yards receiving in 2023? It's a simple Y for yes, in for no. You know my stance. Health permitting. Obviously, health is a big factor in this game, as we all know. But if he stays healthy and he plays 10-plus games, I'm locking Jerand Bradley in for 1,000 yards receiving in a Zach Kittley offense. And don't be surprised. If he does that, he's going to be looked at as a potential first-round, early second-round pick in the NFL draft. All right, let's jump into the other wide receivers to watch for Texas Tech, who I think is going to be on that unofficial two deep whenever they list it here in a couple of days. You got Myles Price, Loic Fouonji. You've also got Xavier White, Dre McCray, and Nehemiah Martinez. Let's start with Myles Price, though, the senior wide receiver. He's sneaky quick, right? He has a solid route tree out of the slot. He's a smaller wide receiver in that 5'8" range, right? But when it comes down to it, he battled injuries last season, and if he hadn't have battled injuries, I think he probably would have pushed Jerand Bradley in terms of leading receiver for this team. He had 513 yards receiving last year, battled a shoulder injury for much of the year for the Red Raiders. But he's one of those guys in the middle of the field and underneath that can open up the outside for guys like Bradley across the middle, Loic Fouonji across the middle, those bigger wide receivers on the outside for the Red Raiders. So his health is pivotal in the slot, but I don't think he's going to be the only guy in the slot that makes a huge impact this year. And in fact, let's skip right to him. Dre McCray. I think Dre McCray, the Austin Peay transfer, is one of the most under-talked about transfers for the Red Raiders. And the reason being is this. Listen, I know a lot of people out there, and me included sometimes, think that wide receiver is a luxury to have. Well, one thing that you need if you don't have the most separating wide receivers, and Texas Tech has some, but they don't have elusive guys in terms of speed. Now they do in Dre McCray. This guy is a 4.3 speed guy, if not quicker in terms of the high 4.2s. He's a guy that is impactful. You go back and look at what he's done against major competition, had almost 100 yards receiving against Alabama down in Tuscaloosa on 10-plus catches. He's a guy that knows how to impact a game. And he's going to be a guy that's be able to take the top off of the defense and really open up that intermediate passing game for guys like Loic Fouonji, guys like Jerand Bradley, guys like Nehemiah Martinez, Xavier White, really everybody on the roster. So I'm really excited to see him. Speaking of Loic Fouonji, if he stays healthy, right, again, we're talking about a big if right now. This guy has battled through injuries his whole time out in the 806. He's an all Big 12 type wide receiver. I think he pairs really well opposite of Bradley. His measurables fit perfectly. He's a long-rangey guy, and it would not shock me at all if he plays 10-plus games this year. We're talking about a 750-yard receiving year for Loic Fouonji, and I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but again, he's probably going to be, at best on this team, a wide receiver too, and if you're getting 750 yards from your wide receiver too, I don't care what offense you're in, that's a pretty damn good wide receiver right there. All right, next up, Xavier White, a guy that probably doesn't get appreciated enough when it comes to this Texas Tech wide receiver core. Simple and plain. The Lubbock native is a true do-it-all guy. You've seen him out of the backfield. You've seen him in the slot. You've seen him outside. I've even seen him line up at like a tight end position as a blocker before, right? When you look at what he does, he's a versatile guy, and it'll keep him on the field and allow Texas Tech to use him really as a Swiss Army knife. And I think, again, he's battled injuries during his time in the Scarlet and Black as well. But I think he's going to be a very interesting chess piece for Zach Kittley moving forward this season, as he's been really his whole time in the 806. Another chess piece is Nehemiah Martinez. I think this guy is one of those dudes that he's not flashy. He doesn't do anything at the elite level, but he does everything really well, if that makes sense. And that is not a diss at his part at all. He is a complete wide receiver in the sense of what his skill set possesses. He's a big dude for his size. He can play in the slot. He's played outside. He's played in the backfield. I'm very interested to see how he moves around. And much like Xavier White, I think he's a Swiss Army knife for Zach Kittley in this offense. So I'm very interested to see where he's used most. It's probably going to be in the slot for Texas Tech, but I'm also interested to see if they move him into the backfield a little bit and use him outside in the backfield in the passing game as well. Before we get to the other wide receivers in the Texas Tech wide receiver group, let me know which wide receiver for the Texas Tech Red Raiders are you most interested in watching in 2023? Again, for me, I'm probably saying Dre McCray because of the impact that he could have potentially on guys like Bradley, Loic Fouonji, Miles Price, just from the speed element, right? And he's going to be on the field, and he's proven that he can play against Power 5 competition. So I'm interested to see him, but you let me know which wide receiver on the Texas Tech Red Raider roster you are most excited to watch in 2023. All right, the other Texas Tech wide receivers of note for 2024, you've got Coy right there. I'm interested in him. Hopefully he's all right. Sounds like there could be an injury there. J.J. Sparkman, you got Brady Boyd. You got Jordan Brown, the former SMU Mustang. You got Tyler King, speed for days right there. You got Drew Hokut as well, the junior wide receiver. DJ Crest, Aiden Meeks, TJ West, and then Kelby Valen as well. So when you look at this, the biggest thing for Texas Tech, and I know we're going a little bit longer on this video, the biggest thing for the Red Raiders in this offseason that they address, speed. Simple and plain. That's what they address. They've got some guys that are freshmen that can come in there, and if they need to play, they can from a speed element. But I think Texas Tech is in a really good spot at the wide receiver position. They've got 6 guys that I'm really looking at, and potentially even 7 that I feel really good about for Texas Tech in terms of playing on the outside, inside, doesn't really matter. Use them where you need to. But let's go back one more time before we get out of here. Texas Tech was ranked number 24 in the preseason USA Today poll. Should Texas Tech be ranked higher or lower? Or, hey, maybe it's just right. You let me know down in the comments below. And if you haven't already, be sure to like the video if you want more Texas Tech football videos here on the channel. We're going to be ramping them up tomorrow. We might even talk a little bit of tight ends unless some Big 12 realignment news drops today. But hey, let me know down in the comments, and then simply liking the video. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay in the know and join one of the most interactive Big 12 community focused on Texas Tech. But we're going to talk a lot of Big 12 as well. Hit that subscribe button to stay in the know right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel.